Hi, how you doing? Justin Sandercoe here. Welcome to lesson 6, which is the final lesson of the guitar pickup with BBC Radio 2. In this lesson today, we're going to be checking out some really cool chords that you can use to fancy up your regular chords. We're going to be looking at the difference between 8th note and 16th note strumming, and we're also going to be looking at suspended chords. The first thing we're going to check out in this lesson is a really cool way of playing a G chord that sounds great on acoustic guitar and is really good for playing those 90s heavy metal ballads. So the regular G chord that we have just uses 3 fingers, but to get to this new type, what we're going to do is move the 3rd finger over onto the 3rd fret of the 2nd string and sneak 2nd finger underneath on the 3rd fret of the thinnest string. Sounds like this. It's got a really rich sound. Doesn't sound very folky, but it's really good for rock music and pop music, this G. And it's got a couple of other real cool little tricks about it. And the first one is that if you move your 1st and 2nd finger over, you get to a chord called a C add 9. We don't want to be playing the thickest string for that, so you want to try and get that 2nd finger just moving up a little bit to mute the thickest string if you can. Now this C add 9 is a really great substitute for a C chord, so most times when you see a C chord you could replace it with a C add 9. You just have to use your ears to tell you if it's going to be okay or not. And of course what that does, a regular G chord to a C chord is one of the hardest chord changes to do, particularly when you have to do it fast. That's kind of difficult. Whereas if you use this big G chord and then C add 9, it's really simple because it's the same shape and you're just changing the strings for the 1st and the 2nd finger. Really easy. Now the other cool thing about both of these chords is that we have a finger in common with the D chord. So from the C add 9, if we leave our 3rd finger down and just move our 1st and 2nd fingers over to the D chord, it's really easy to get that change again from the C add 9 to the D and then back to G. And the chords C, G and D are really common together. I'm sure you've probably found some songs already that use those chord combinations. So if you want to muck around, G, C, D, it's really simple to change between them. Or there's literally hundreds of songs that use those different chords. So that's a really nice little cheat there. Now, another common thing that you can do along these lines of little chord cheats is keeping the 3rd and 4th fingers down, but then moving to an E minor chord with fingers 1 and 2. This is a really cool sounding chord. Goes great with the G chord and the C add 9. You can see just keeping those fingers there sounds really nice. And it even works for a D chord. So if we now move our 1st finger over onto the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, we end up with another chord. It's a kind of a D chord. It's actually called a D sus4. And what's really interesting about the D sus4 chord is that you can use it in conjunction with your regular D, and it's kind of an ornament. So if we have a regular D and we add our little finger down the 3rd fret of the thinnest string and then lift it off again, we get a really nice sound if we're just on the D, sus4, D. It's a really cool little sound. And the other cool trick with the D chord, actually, while we're on it, is lifting off your 2nd finger actually gives us a chord called a D sus2. So from our D chord, we can add a little finger and get D sus4, back to D, and then lift off 2nd finger, we get that D sus2, which is a really nice variation that you can put on almost any D chord. So anytime you've got a D, it's a really fun thing to kind of play about with, particularly when you're using your G and your C add 9. It's just such a nice little... It's a lovely little movement, and it can kind of make your playing sound a lot more professional, a lot more slick when you start adding in these little ornaments to your playing. Everyone's got their own tips, tricks and methods for starting out on the guitar, so let's hear from somebody who's made a career from their love of the sixth string.
If I was to give a tip, it would be to kind of make sure you know your way around the fretboard and you know where every note is, and then you're able to use open tunings and kind of make your own shapes as well. I think when you're learning, you get really caught up in knowing every single chord and every single bar chord, but then open tunings are great as well, and it's a way of really finding your own unique way of playing.
Next up today, I want to talk about 8th note and 16th note strumming. Now, in a bar of 4/4, we have 4 beats, the 1, 2, 3 and the 4, and these all take down strums. And in between each one, we have an and, which we play with an up strum, and that gives us 4 down strums and 4 up strums in a bar, which is a total of 8 strums in the bar. So that's why we call it 8th note strumming. So that regularly would be on a C chord, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now you might not be playing all of those strums. You might be going 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and, or any sort of other 8th note combination. But it's the hand moving the down on the beat, the 1, 2, 3 and the 4, and the up on the and. That's really what defines 8th note strumming. Now a really cool trick that's used a lot in rock music and pop music is to replace the up strums with down strums. So we actually have 8 down strums in the bar. Okay, it's really important that you hear this. So I'm just going to do it on a C chord. I'm going to start with 8th note strumming and then move to 16th note strumming. And you'll notice even though I'm doing the same amount of strums, the fact that I move to all down strums gives it a lot more energy. So here we go, 8th note first of all, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and here we go, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you can hear it kind of picks it up. It makes it feel like it's moving a little bit more, and it's a really, really useful skill to learn, particularly bands like Coldplay or these kind of modern pop music where it's kind of moving along. It's got a lot of energy in the music. When you get into doing all down strums, it kind of lifts it up. And the interesting thing there is if we've got 8 down strums in the bar, that means when your hand moves down, it's got to move back up. So that means that we've also got 8 up strums in the bar. And when we add our 8 down strums with the 8 up strums, that's how we get 16th note strumming, because it's got 16 possible strums in the bar. Now the best way to start learning this is just to take that simple pattern that we did. So again, I'm going to be on a C chord here, start with all of the down strums, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Get used to that first of all, and then where you want, keeping your hand moving consistently. It's the most important thing, but you could start adding some upstrokes. So 1 and 2. Did you notice that my hand didn't stop moving? It's the same all of the way through. It's just doing that. If I'm not playing, or if I'm just playing 8th notes, or anything fancy, that hand moving consistently that's really the key. So feel free to experiment as much as you like, but really make sure that you keep that hand moving.
All the small things you start to learn, teach yourself, steal from everybody you can, you know, but steal from the best. If you're going to steal from the best, and then you'll end up playing something that becomes you. If you can find your own identity, and that may take a few years, but it will come. And then people will know you for what you do and not for what you're trying to do from another person's recordings.
So this week, Dr. Justin is prescribing you another 30 minutes practice. First thing that we want to be doing again is 5 minutes on your chord practice. Probably most likely you're going to be still working on your F chord, because that is the killer. But if there are any other chords that you're struggling with, you definitely be wanting to add those in as well. Next up, we'd be having our 1 minute changes. Of course, picking the chord changes that you find the hardest and working on changing between them as much as you can. Next thing up would be the finger stretching exercise, because of course you can't get enough of that. If you're really finding that all of the chords are pretty easy for you, you might want to substitute it for something else, maybe exploring that D sus chord in some songs that you know. It would really be up to you. We're also going to be working on 5 minutes of strumming. Now, I would recommend that you start exploring the 8th note and the 16th note strumming patterns, and if you can, start doing it with a metronome. Set your metronome at maybe 60 beats a minute and practice strumming along with it, making sure that you're really solidly in time, and explore that idea of both 8th note and 16th note strumming. Again, I can't mention it often enough. The secret is to keep that hand moving consistently. It's the biggest deal for rhythm, that strumming hand. Moving consistently all the time. It doesn't stop. As soon as it stops, you're going to fall off the skateboard and it all goes wrong. So really keep it moving. That leaves us 10 minutes to be working on your songs. And what I would definitely recommend is that you start trying to incorporate that new G chord, the C add 9, and explore the D sus 4 and the D sus 2. Try and incorporate them into some songs that you've learned already. Brown Eyed Girl's a really nice one if you happen to have learnt that song for using the G to the C chord. But there are many, many songs that use that G, C and D combination. So you should definitely search some out. So that draws to a close our little series, The Guitar Pickup with BBC Radio 2. I've had a lot of fun and I really hope that you've got a lot out of it. It's really important that you stick with your practice. It's all about putting the hours in, you know. If you're doing half an hour practice a day, you'll get good pretty quick. If you do half an hour a week, well, it might take you a little bit longer, but you will get there. It's just practice. All of those things that you're finding a little bit tricky, the F chord, trying to get your strumming and stuff, it's hard. We all struggle with it. Everybody had a time in their life, if they've been playing guitar for some time, that they struggled with it. You know, you've got to dig deep and just keep on practicing and you will get there. And it is such a rewarding journey, you know, when you can actually grab a guitar out and play at a barbecue and play for your friends. It's a really, really wonderful thing. Sharing music with the people that you love is a fantastic, fantastic thing to be doing. So I really hope you enjoy it and you stick with your guitar playing. I'll see you for plenty more guitar lessons very soon. You take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.